Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host, and I'm glad to have you back. If you wouldn't mind doing so, if you haven't already done so, is please subscribe to the podcast that's on your favorite channel, including the one you're listening to now, 30 some odd channels to be exact. And while you're online, please go visit globalinvestoragent.com. This is where you can find one of our highly trained real estate agents to work with you. These are not your typical agents, guys. These folks, they know how to identify, analyze, and negotiate on and off market deals for you and I. So it's definitely a critical member of your team to be successful. So, and if you are an agent, by the way, a real estate agent, definitely visit there. Click on the learn more button because you know the market's changing. We know it. We can see it. Volume's down to 1.89 transactions per agent, according to NAR. That's ridiculous. So don't be a victim. Don't panic. It's not time to panic. It's time to prepare and learn how to make these investors part of your model, or you're going to miss the boat. So, in any case, great guest today, guys. Shannon Robnet is here joining us. Got a wealth of experience, and I can't wait to get started and let's dig into some information. But first off, Shannon, thanks for doing this. I know you're busy and just and successful, so I know that we're lucky to have you. you know.
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate you having me on the show. And, I appreciate you putting out information like this. I mean, podcasts like this that bring real information to people. As you mentioned, not all real estate agents are the same. And you and I both know 1.8 transactions is really not a great marker, but it's also kind of skewed because 5%, 8% of the agents are doing probably 70% of the transactions because they do have the knowledge, because they are listening to podcasts like this. So thank you for what you do.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I've been doing this a lot of years, man. I mean, investing for 37 and been in the brokerage world for going on 23 years since January. And it was all focused on investing because that's what I am. I'm an investor. And it was a big miss. It was a big gap between brokerage
Absolutely.
and investing. And we've been closing the gap one agent at a time, one investor at a time ever since. And now we got a following crazy, like 70 some odd thousand people. And many of them, Jen, I actually taught in person, literally 24,000, more than 24,000 I've taught in person over
Wow.
those years. And I'll go to conferences now and it's like I can sit back and relax. I don't have to go out and promote myself much anymore. It's a great feeling. I'm kind of retired,
Yeah. Yeah.
But it didn't happen overnight. A lot of people, it's like, hey, this guy came out of nowhere. Well, I've been kind of doing this a long time.
Right. Right.
So, but hey, if you wouldn't mind, give us a little context. I know obviously we've seen a lot since year 2000, and it's happened so fast. But kind of take us through your path, how you got to where you are now, and then let's talk about some of what you're doing and fill people in and bring them in.
Sure thing, Gary. I was born into a real estate family. My mother is a third generation real estate broker. She was a broker for 41 years before she retired at the spry young age of 72.
Nice.
And my father was a developer. And I had my real estate license for a couple of years. I always had somebody in my office license. My son took the mantle. So now there's 5 generations of real estate agents in our family. And, it's just been in my blood. I started out with single family homes. I quickly realized that I didn't like the size of the transaction for the amount of the heartache, for lack of a better term. So I got into commercial building and I built everything from police stations to city halls, fire stations, schools, gymnasiums, medical facilities, large scale industrial projects. And I really found that the transaction size is not necessarily the difficulty. You can have as much or more as your agents can tell you, as much or more grief in a transaction from a single home buyer that you can have in a $20 million industrial transaction. You can have just as much. You could probably have more problems in a fourplex than you will have in a 200 unit apartment complex. It's just about scalability. And so I started down that journey in 2001 personally with investing in industrial projects. And I built my first large scale industrial project in 01. Two of the original tenants are still in the buildings. But
Nice.
it's been a fantastic journey. I went through '08, not unscathed. I got, my head kicked in like a lot of people did.
Mhm.
But I've continued to build, and I've known that there's always value in real estate. They say that you make your money in real estate when you buy, and you lose your money when you sell, right? And so a lot of us learned that in 9 and 10 when we sold things that are now worth quite a bit more if we'd have just figured out how to hang on to them. So that's kind of my
Yeah.
journey in a nutshell. I just don't know what else to do, so I do real estate.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I've been saying this for the last couple of years, ever since the run up on prices started with the pandemic. I'm looking back, I'm thinking, man, I should have kept everything. And that's all I always tell people, say, look, whatever you do, if you own a piece of real estate, do everything you can to hang on to it. I promise you, over time, it's gonna pay off. I mean, it goes up in value, right? You have equity buy down, pay down, if you want to call it that, from paying off the mortgages if you have them. You've got cash flow, you've got appreciation, and if you got, well, I already said that, but you got depreciation. That's four ways to make money. At the end of the day, yeah, you can still sell it, but you can also repurpose it. You could even
Right.
refinance it. I mean, it's the gift that keeps on giving. It is
Yeah.
a game of patience, but I'm telling you, it's as rock solid as anything I've ever seen. I've been in the stock market, I am today, but in the stock market, things can go to zero. In
Yeah.
real estate, I've never seen anything go to zero because you
Yeah.
still have the land.
Well, in the reality too, I did the exercise a couple years back where I traced all my real estate, right? Because I've
Mhm,
sold a lot of stuff, but I
mhm,
traced where the money went into and how I grew that from there. And real estate is a game of patience. In the last couple of years, people were trading real estate like day traders were trading Tesla. They owned
mhm.
something for 9 months. They made 35 or $45,000. They thought that was fantastic. They did a 1031 into the next one. Whereas if they'd have kept it, they'd have been able to extract 125% of what they paid for it, get all their money back out of it. And if they continue that process, they will get to the place of financial independence. And that's really the end game for real estate, is to get to a place of financial independence. And a lot of people just don't seem to put the patience behind it that it takes to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree that the cool thing is too is you can actually, when you pay things off, when you pay off your income producing assets, remember it's a physical tangible asset, number one, right? It's not a piece of paper, it's a physical tangible asset. Number two, it throws off cash flow. So if you have it paid off, you can also leverage against it. And I know rates have gone up a lot in the last year, but it's still relatively relative to history, rates are not that bad right now. I mean, my gosh,
No,
I remember 7% was like hallelujah. I mean, we
right.
were used to paying 9%,
Well,
which
and I
is
did my
7%. We
first
thought
deal
that
at,
was heaven.
at 9%, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I look at these and everybody's saying, wow, we're in a whole new world in real estate. We're not. Maybe that makes us old, Gary, but we're just in the world that I grew up in. And for
yeah,
me, transacting at where we're at now still still has to make sense. It still has to pencil. It still has to cash flow. So, maybe I
yeah,
can't pay as much. Maybe I've got to bring more equity to the table, but there's many opportunities to do that in the market because, as you know, there's always a seller and there's always a buyer.
yeah. One thing I love about investing, it's funny, they always focus on the economy. And I agree, we need to know what's happening in the economy. We need to know what policies are coming out of Washington, D.C., and then also the state level. What's the Fed up to? What are the trends, things like that. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But at the end of the day, we're still investing. It's not that
Yeah,
we don't invest in certain times and do us at other times. We just have different strategies.
yeah,
That's the key. And that's why I
absolutely.
always tell agents, always work with investors because they always invest.
Yeah.
Um, hey, so let's talk about some of the things we can do today in light of what's happening with the run up on prices and the increase in rates. When it comes to like tax incentivized investing in projects. Is there anything you're aware of now? I've seen some things at the state level that look pretty good and some are look kind of kooky.
Yeah.
But what kind of things are you seeing out there as far as ways to make the government our partner in these things?
Well, we're doing a project right now where we're taking a couple of tax incentives and we're combining them to put together a very exciting project. So first of all, Gary, the property is in an opportunity zone, and if your listeners don't know, an opportunity zone is a census tract where this is an area that the cities and the states have identified that they want redevelopment. And so under Trump, a bill was passed that allowed you to sell your property and put it into an opportunity zone and roll your gains. So in a typical 1031, you have to, let's say you sell for $500,000, you have to reinvest $500,000 plus $1. In an opportunity zone, you only have to invest your gain. So if you bought the property at 250, you're only having to invest 250,000. The caveat to that is you don't have to pay the taxes on those capital gains proceeds until 2026, and legislation is being passed now that should extend that to 2028. Then if you've invested in that opportunity zone for a period of 10 years, when you sell after that 10-year marker, you don't pay capital gains on your proceeds. So it's a great opportunity to have. So what we did was we bought a 45,000 square foot warehouse that was fully tenantized. It was under market on the rents, but it was in a fantastic location right next to the mall. And so we went in and got it rezoned for 200 units of multifamily apartments. We asked for a 16-foot height variance. The city said, what can you do for us? And we said, we'll put in some low-income tax credit housing. So now when we bought the property, we took bonus depreciation on the property. So if you had capital gains tax due, bonus depreciation works against that. Excuse me. So we were able to eradicate a lot of the capital gains tax that was due for our investors on the property. Now that we're ready to build the property, we're going to raise additional funds that are opportunity zone related funds. We're also involving a LIHTC builder developer, which LIHTC is the low income tax credit. And what the government does is they look at what the rents that they want for the area will do to the value of your property, and they issue you tax credits in exchange for that. Then because the government can't really give you money, then you go out and you sell those tax credits. So if it looks like we'll get about $8 or $9 million in tax credits that we'll sell for $9 million, raise capital. So we'll get $9 million in money from the government to lower our capital stack. That allows us to then come in with less equity, bring in opportunity zone funding. So we've really combined three things there. We've got the depreciation, number one, that's going to eliminate the taxes due on the capital gains. Then we're going to have the opportunity zone events so that you'll actually be receiving income before you owe the taxes. So if there's anything left that we have not eliminated with the depreciation and the putting the building in service and getting that bonus depreciation on the building, then you'll be able to eliminate that with your income. So you're actually making money to pay a tax. That's a novel idea, right? The government let you use your money to make money to pay your taxes. And then the third thing that we'll be using is the low income tax credits to enrich our capital stack.
Gotcha. Well, that sounds like an ingenious plan. I mean, you're utilizing what's available out there, and if you're in an opportunity zone, you have the other programs already there. But if you're an opportunity zone, it compounds the benefit, you know.
It definitely makes a good deal better. It doesn't make a bad deal good, but it definitely makes a good deal better.
Yeah. Now that in that scenario you just played out, that can work anywhere in the country, wherever there's an opportunity zone, because it's a federal level. The tax breaks and all that are federal level. So now there are state programs too.
Sorry, this is the sixth opportunity zone project we've done. We've had some good results with that, and we found that it is very beneficial, especially when you're building a new product. You're demolishing the old product, so you're taking 100% depreciation on the structure itself. And it really works out well for us.
Nice. Now, if you don't mind me asking, geographically, are there certain areas that you're focused on, or is it really, it's just case by case? If the opportunity is there, the opportunity is there, are there states you prefer and states you prefer not to be in, or if you don't mind talking about the geography a little bit, that would be great too,
Yeah.
Did you know that you can participate in class every Monday? We call it Monday Night Live, 7 p.m. Eastern, with me and dozens of other investor agents from around the country, in fact, the world. Every Monday, totally free. No selling, no recruiting, just straight up education on anything and everything in real estate. And we have a lot of good guests coming on once or twice a month, bringing in expertise on subjects like how to buy a house with crypto. Okay. How about them apples? What about AI? How's AI affecting our business? How about the metaverse, blockchain processing? We're already using it in title work. So come on to Monday Night Live, be ready to take notes and ask questions because it's live and engaging, and you get to participate by asking questions and meeting others. So we'll see you there. Go to GaryRealEstateWithGaryWilson.com, click on the resource tab, drop down, and you'll see Monday Night Live. And in there, you can see one of the most recent classes, but more importantly, you can register for class as many as you want going up to like the end of the year, I believe. So in any case, do that. We'll see you on Monday Night Live. Look forward to meeting you in person. Take care.
You know, it is a political question, right? It's not a Republican and Democrat question. It's a, what is the state politics, right? How do they treat businesses? How do they treat investors? And really what we've identified is 8 markets nationwide that we're willing to go into. And once we've identified that the market is a good market, then we can look at deals in that market. Otherwise, we could get shiny object syndrome just like everybody else. And the next thing you know, we got a project in Ohio, and we got one in Mississippi, and then we got one in Orlando. And, you know, so we've narrowed it to 8 markets that we like the politics, we like the growth patterns, we like the job growth patterns, because I see that when this recession that is coming comes, I think you're going to see states that have terrible tax policies get absolutely clobbered. Because, I mean, let's just think about it. You've got a place like Chicago that's got high crime and high taxes. If you're dealing with a lot of joblessness in a high crime, high tax environment, there's really not a lot of reasons to stay. So you're going to see the migration that we saw during COVID continue to happen. In fact, I believe it will pick up, and you're going to see places that have good tax policies, that have good economies, that have good schools, that have decent response to crime and things like that, are going to really thrive during that time. We're already seeing businesses move. I mean, we just saw Smith & Wesson was the last one. They moved from New England to Tennessee, right? 650,000 square foot production facility purely based on politics. So I think that that's what we do. We look at 8 markets. Then from there, we drill into those markets and find deals where we know that I'd rather do a good deal in a great market, Gary, and have the market carry me than have to be the one trying to revive the whole dang city because I got a 4-plex in there.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I appreciate you sharing that. It is, you know, it's an important part of any successful strategy is you do have to be strategic. You have to gather information, the facts, the data, and the policies of the different states. And there's some great websites I'll call out to people here. Anybody can use these, they're free. One of them is called How Money Walks. And what they do is they gather data from IRS tax filings, and it shows the migration of money, not people, but money from state to state and county to county. So you can see where people are, you know, leaning towards as far as how they're going to, where they're going to invest. And another one is U-Haul actually has a report called the U-Haul report. It shows the movement of people. So now you got the movement of money and the movement of people. And obviously there's a lot of synergy. The movement of people, the movement of money often match each other, but it's not 100%. But it allows you to kind of see where things are going. And if you just start Googling, you know, you know, um, you know, government policy in Illinois, government policy in California, New York, and then you go down to Tennessee and the Carolinas and Florida and Alabama, you know, you're going to see different policy. And policy that promotes growth is always going to end up being better for everybody than policy that doesn't promote growth. It's just, again, it's not a political thing. It's a common sense thing. You know. So,
and I would say, Gary, that if you're going to follow one of those 2 reports, if you looked at Follow the Money, that would tell you where 2 to 4 years from now the people are going to go, right? Because where the money goes, that's where jobs are created, that's where infrastructure is built, that's where things happen that when they grow. I mean, look, we love the Raleigh-Durham market, right? North Carolina is a fantastic market because it's got job growth going through the roof, and it's got high tech jobs. They've got some of the highest wage increase in the nation happening right now. So when
Yeah.
people are looking at it going, man, I can't make ends meet because gas is $5 and I live in a state that likes to tax the ever living daylights out of me. I'm going to move somewhere where job growth is happening, where wage growth is happening, and where there's positive tax policies that actually give you something for what your tax dollar buys.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I'm gonna put this out there and try to describe a visual of this. What I'm gonna talk about here is I took accounting when I was in college. You know, it's a couple of semesters. My degree was in computer science, but I wanted to study accounting and some other business classes. So I got an accounting book. I still have it today. And in the back, it has a chart, looks like an actuarial chart. And it shows a period of time from left to right. And then it also shows from the rows from top to bottom rates of return. And let's say you assume a $10,000 investment initially, and you put in, another $1,000 a year, you can go out 30 years. So
Mm-hmm.
it shows it's the increase in your return, the growth of your wealth is not a straight line. It's like a curve. It's a parabola. It's like half a
Yep.
parabola. So here's the key to this whole discussion. If the government in its infinite wisdom decides to tax more, it's taxing on the income as it's made, whether it's through jobs or investment. And if you tax 20, if you have a 20% tax, right? And you cut the growth off at the knees, which is really what you're doing, over time you actually squeeze the volume of income and wealth that you have to tax. So
Absolutely.
you're basically reducing the amount of taxable income and wealth by
Right.
doing that. So if you cut the tax in half, you actually allow for more growth over a long period of time, therefore having a lot more volume of wealth and income to tax at that lower rate, providing more tax dollars to provide for roads and schools and things like that. But you try to explain this to people in Washington, D.C., and I apologize if I'm getting passionate here, but they don't listen.
Right.
They want to they never solve a problem. They just want to patch something right now. They want to throw
Yep.
money at it to make people feel better. That's their policy. You look
Well,
what have they done for us in the last 25 years? Other nothing.
right.
They fight against each other. They take
Right.
each other to court. There's no legislation that's doing any good for anybody, you know?
Right.
So
But the reality
sorry.
is, Gary, I think that the average American looks at the tax code as a penal code, and it's really not.
Yeah.
If you really explore the tax code, it tells you how to invest tax free. It tells you
Yep.
how to reduce your tax bills. Now, the way it's written, it says if you do this, you will pay this tax. So if you do the opposite of that, you won't pay the tax. And by
Right.
doing deductive reasoning, you can literally go through the tax code at any level of the game and eliminate your tax bill, putting 30 to 40% more into each investment because you're doing it in a tax efficient manner. And that's one of
Right.
the things that we've really helped our investors do is understand how to get out of the tax game so that you can now maximize that investment dollar that's going in because you're doing it tax efficiently. And so when you're being efficient with that and you're cutting the government out, you're able to build much faster because of the compounding effect, but you're also adding 30% to every
Yeah.
investment because you're able to continue. I mean, look, let's face it, everybody figures out how to do life first. They've got to have X dollars to make the world go round.
Yeah.
And then they have their investing money. But they have that part that makes your world go round has taxes involved. And if you can
Yeah.
eliminate that, your life can stay the same and you can add all this money to it that is now tax deferred or tax exempt because of how you do it, allowing you to grow much faster and really kind of get that hockey stick effect happening sooner for you.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that. I know I get passionate about this subject, but
Right.
you're absolutely right. I've been blessed over the years to be involved in real estate. And way back in the 90s, they had what's called Community Reinvestment Act.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to get 3% loans at the time when rates were 8 and 9%, you know.
Yep.
And all we did is we moved into areas and improved the areas. That's
Yeah,
all we were doing. We improved the areas. Now, same thing here with Opportunity Zone. It's
exactly.
the same principle. We're applying resources to areas that we really want to make better. In any area, every state has opportunity zones, you know, and every city does too, by the way. So if you think about what we're doing, we're actually creating jobs. Whenever
Yep.
we go in there and we rebuild the property, right? We're
Absolutely.
creating jobs. We're
Yep.
creating income that people can use to go to restaurants and buy gas and buy groceries and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, Do we get a tax break? Absolutely. But it's because there's an exchange of value there. We're doing something really, really good for the community. Are we making money? You bet you know what we are. That's
Yeah,
part of the American dream.
that
That's what you
is.
get in a free market economy is you put yourself at risk and your money at risk to provide a greater good for you and everybody around you. And we should get a tax break for doing that. There's lots of level there. The tax code, I forget how many different pages it is now. I mean, it's too big for it's too big for lawyers' libraries. I've had a
Right,
lawyer tell me, he
right,
said, I don't even have room for the tax code anymore. It's too
right.
big. Yeah.
Well,
You know?
and the thing is, if you want to talk about an opportunity zone in your own living room, I mean, think about how it's the single biggest expense in your life. They say that
Yeah.
if you live in California, 61% of your income goes to taxes after you pay for your fuel tax, your property taxes, your school bonds and levies, all of that, you're paying almost 61% of your income. If you really look at that and you say, what is the most effective way to make money? The most effective way for you to make money without getting a raise, without doing more work, is to figure out how to be tax efficient. But so many people leave that to their accountant instead of dealing
Right.
with tax strategists, instead of learning themselves, that they leave so much money on the table that can't be reclaimed. Once it goes to the government, it's
Oh, yeah.
gone. And as you indicated, they're not spending it wisely. So why shouldn't you do that? And it's one of the things that we really help our investors do is understand how to be as tax efficient as possible to allow you to invest as much as possible, to allow you to grow as fast as possible.
Yeah. That's it. You know, key to success in all this, really what it's coming down to is education. You know,
Absolutely.
you've demonstrated that through this whole podcast as you took the time to educate yourself on how the taxes work and how you can do your part and play a role in reducing your own taxes. It's you know it's all in there and it's meant to be used. I mean, that's
Yeah.
my tax accountant I use told me that 20 say 26 20 27 years ago, coming up this next year.
Mm-hmm.
He said the tax code is there to be used. He said most people just don't use it. And by
Right.
the way, he was a real estate investor too. So
Well, and most people, they go to their accountant and they expect their accountant to do it. Most
yeah,
accountants aren't tax strategists. The other
that's right.
thing in defense of accountants, and yes, Gary, I'm going to defend accountants.
Yeah,
Most people go see them in February or March after the year is done. I go see
yeah,
my accountant in June and I go see her at Thanksgiving. And those
yeah,
two times in June, we put together the strategy. My year's half over. How's it going? What are we going to need to do? What kind of income are we looking at? We put some things into place. We make some adjustments. We go back in November and we go, okay, year's ending. What do we got to do to make this thing successful and bring it home? Maybe we made a little more. Maybe we made a little less. We make those adjustments so that at the end of the year, we know very comfortably we've got a zero tax bill. We've got something that
yeah,
is not requiring me to do that. Now, what it does require me to do is something I love doing. Requires me to buy more real estate, right? Requires me to buy more
yeah,
assets. It requires me to do things that are going to enhance the legacy of my family, not the legacy that is coming out of Washington.
yeah. Hey, I know we're going to get short on time here pretty quick, but I want to. We've been talking a lot about policy and taxes, and it's kind of leaning towards the trends, what we've seen being developed over the last generation. And I always tell people this, hey guys, when I ask this question, don't hold Shannon or I to it because there's so many wild cards out there. We
Yeah.
don't know what the heck's going to happen
Yeah.
tomorrow. But from what we know today, Shannon, what are you and your family thinking is what's the future looking like as far as the trends and goes when it comes to policies and taxes and the economy,
Well, I can guarantee you taxes are going to go up, right? I mean, they've built an unsustainable machine. They've extracted tax from us in the past. We don't have a voice in that. So I would tell people to always plan on taxes being more tomorrow than they are today. There's no way out of this cycle. So you need to be
Yeah,
more prepared tomorrow than you are today. And there's ways to do that. I also think that we are headed into a recession. I don't think there's anybody that disagrees with that. But the reality is, it's not going to be like 2008, in my opinion. The one thing that's changed dramatically, Gary, between here and 2008 is the amount of product available. As you know, Gary, there wasn't a lot of houses being built in 9, 10, 11, and 12. NAR says there's somewhere between 4 and 7 million housing units necessary to just meet supply and demand and bring that back to normal in America. So what I'm seeing is this is still a fantastic time to get involved in real estate because supply and demand plays into things. We've all seen the lines that happen at Christmas when the parent wants that one toy, the it toy for their kid, so that's not going to change. Supply and demand is not going to change. What is going to change, I believe, is the percentage of homeowners versus tenants. Because as rates continue to stay in the 7 and 8 and 9% range, it's taken away the dream of home ownership from a lot of people. When that happens, it doesn't mean they're going to be homeless for the most part. It means that they're going to become somebody's tenant. And we're seeing that tenants are now being reported to have paid in the C-class apartments up to 43% of their income. Well, that's not really sustainable, but that's what's required. So what I see is as interest rates continue to go up, rents are going to go up. It doesn't necessarily mean that property values are going to continue to grow up because there's that cap rate that plays the part in between the middle. But if you're buying property today and it cash flows today, I can tell you very comfortably that in 2, 3, 4 years, it's going to be even more cash flow positive than it is today. Are interest rates going to be higher? Possibly. Are we going to be in a recession? Possibly. But when you're involved in housing and you're involved in where businesses do their business, you're going to be in a position to continue to take advantage of that escalating cycle of rents continuing to go north and get higher.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. At the end of the day, one of my famous sayings is, and it really comes from being a Boy Scout. My son's an Eagle Scout too, is the Boy Scout motto is be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always tell my agents and my investor clients is, look, don't panic. Panicking just wastes time and energy and it doesn't solve anything. So the antidote to that is to prepare. And for preparation comes through education, information, and correct action. And that's
Absolutely agree.
There's opportunity always in every economy, in every market. You just have to give yourself permission to be open to it, be awake and aware, look for the opportunities and take advantage of them. More wealth in any recession. The properties don't go anywhere. They don't get torn down. I mean, for the most part, they just change hands. That's all it
Absolutely.
is. It's a shift in wealth. That's all it is. And your job as a real estate agent, for those of you who are out there listening, is to be part of that. Be part of the equation of success. Train yourself, and maybe you can invest yourself one day, just like your clients. That's really the hope, for this podcast is to, enable you, empower you to own a piece of the American dream, which is real estate. So, hey, Shannon, any final words of wisdom? Also, how can people? You've done an excellent job, man. I got to tell you, it's one of my favorite podcasts. How can people get a hold of you? I want to go take you to lunch or something.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the easiest way to do that is just go to shannonrobnet.com. And there you can find all of my social media channels. You can follow me there. You can find my podcast, The Real Estate Rundown. You can see job site cameras of what we got going on. You can see deals that we're doing. You can even get to my calendar and book a 15-minute call. We can talk about what I can do to help you, what maybe education gaps I can help fill in, books I can recommend. Love to do that. So if it's just simply shannonrobnet.com. And I want to say thanks again, Gary, for having me on the show.
yeah. Oh, you're very welcome. I'd like to have you back another time too. I think there's some other things we can dive into that'll help a lot of people, and you've definitely got the experience. So I really appreciate that. And
Well,
for everybody listen,
like you, sir,
what's
I'm
that?
an overnight success that only took 20 plus years in the making, right?
There you go. It's the guy I met, the publisher of the book, The Secret. This was going back, I don't know how many years now. Oh my gosh, 14 years. He's, by the way, a former Eagle Scout too. And his only book that had any claim to fame was a book called The Eagle. But in any case, he got the rights to publish the Secret. And everybody thought it was an overnight success. And he said, Gary, I've been doing it for 27 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and for everybody listening, we appreciate you too. And if you could, please leave a good review for this podcast. That really does help Shannon and I. We don't get paid for this. It's a community service. we love to do it because it lets us build relationships with people like you. So
Absolutely.
if you leave a review, that's awesome. And then when you're out there, make sure you visit shannonrobnet.com. All right. And you even got the opportunity to speak with Shannon directly, just like I am. Can you imagine that? We get to speak with Shannon directly and maybe participate in some of the projects there. And before you leave the internet, go one last thing to do is visit globalinvestoragent.com. If you're an investor, pick out an agent for yourself. And if you're an agent, definitely click on the learn more button because this is, again, not time to panic. It's time to prepare. And that's exactly what we do. We have a team of agents all around the country. And they, by the way, outproduce the NAR average by more than 2 to 1. Now, an average is just an average. You can be average if you want, but we have agents on a team that do, well, I'm not supposed to say numbers, but they do really well
There you go.
working with investors. Yeah. So you guys take care of yourselves. God bless you and your families, and we will see you on the next Massive Passive Cashflow podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.